In the news this week, a grieving family plans to sue the WA government for negligence after their son was hit by a train. An exclusive report.
WA hospital crisis deepens as Health Minister denies cuts were made to Midland Public Hospital.
A major cyclone is set to hit Western Australia.
Brad Pettitt presents his intentions as the only Greens member in WA. Plus, Dr Andrew Miller's comment.
This is the evening news with Ivan Leung and Kit Sanders. Good evening. We begin with explosive developments in the Marlon Johns tragedy as his family threatens to sue the state government for negligence over his death. Mr. Johns was killed after he was hit by a train back in March this year, as his family continued their push for the truth. The incident is set to be the focus at the upcoming death in custody protest this week. Just 1 month after Marlon Johns' tragic death in Fremantle, his family is continuing their push for the truth as frustration mounts. 31-year-old Marlon Johns died after he was hit by a train in Fremantle. Before the incident, a transit guard refused him entry on the train simply because who he was and the trouble in his past, according to the family. The victim's sister Mahani Johns spoke on behalf of the grieving family, threatening to sue WA government for negligence over Marlon's death.
Go through the courts, get the right answers instead of them trying to hide the truth. I am a bit waiting over time, and it's just gotten to the point where we can't deal with waiting any longer. We need answers. So if it keeps being silent, no words, we will go through court and try and get the legal aid to help us.
The family is demanding access to video recordings of the incident, saying they just want the truth.
All we want is just to know what happened, if it was some other option or if it was something else personal-wise, because we don't know the full story yet. We can't tell you what the story is yet.
In a statement, the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs, Stephen Dawson, expressed his sympathy, saying, "I'm sorry to hear the death of Mr. Johns and pass on my condolences to his family and friends. I understand that the WA Police Force are preparing a report for the coroner. As this matter may be subject to a coroner inquiry, I cannot comment on the circumstances." Meanwhile, both Liberal and Greens politicians are promising to ask questions and provide assistance on the matter.
The Liberal Party will assist and support any inquiry into what has been a very tragic death, and we will support every effort to ensure that the family see the justice and see some transparency.
And look, I totally understand that family wanting answers, and certainly I'll really happily meet with them and see what kind of assistance that I could offer.
And with the annual Death in Custody rally set to hit Perth middle of the week, the rally's organisers are vowing to put Mr. Johns' tragedy as one of the major focuses of the demonstration. The family's push for answers continues on, with the support from the greater Indigenous community in Western Australia.
Marlon meant the world to us. He was so much more than just a family member. He was more like a brother to everyone.
Health Minister Roger Cook has denied that Midland St John of God Public Hospital is facing a $6 million funding cut, but instead adjustments.
The comments come just 2 weeks after a WAMN News exclusive where whistleblowers at the hospital revealed it was facing significant financial challenges on upcoming funding reductions.
The source who blew the whistle exposing the government's budget cuts on Midland Public Hospital 2 weeks ago has gone public again, this time accusing the Health Minister Roger Cook of shifting the blame after he denied there were cuts to St John of God in Midland. The source said the following to the WAMN News, quote, "The words used by Mr Cook tries to shift blame from the government onto the hospital. Cutting funds to the public section of a not-for-profit hospital will compromise the quality of care that can be provided, no matter which model is used. SJG-MPH serves 1/4 of Aboriginal people in Perth, which means a significant part of our Aboriginal community will be affected by this as well." The Liberal Party's health spokeswoman, Libby Mettam, says the government's refusal to call the crisis on the situation is an insult to frontline health workers.
The public are losing confidence in our health system, and it is no wonder why. There is no reason why the people of such a prosperous state as Western Australia should be seeing the level of treatment and the level of care and the level of chaos that we are currently seeing and witnessing.
It is robbing the poor and feeding the rich, especially when we're talking about monies taken away from Aboriginal health. Aboriginal health is so poor and pathetic as it is in Western Australia, and taking monies away from Midland Hospital where a big percentage of people are going to get medical assistance.
Minister Cook says that because of the contract that St John of God has with the state, they follow an activities-based model to ensure budget and care goals are met. WA Health Director General David Russell-Wise says jobs will not be affected and that funding will increase as activity increases.
Well, the Midland Hospital is a public-private partnership, and the East Metro Health Service contract manage that. So each year prices go up and down, and we pay all our hospitals on activity. So actually activity will go up. As you can see, it's going up. So they will be paid more for more activity. But prices do fall. I don't want to get too technical, but prices get fall on what hospitals get funded, but you actually get paid on volume. So some years it will go up, some years it will go down.
Acting St John of God CEO Brian Pine said, "Although we will aim to minimise the impact on our staff, salaries and wages represent our largest cost." The funding reduction is due to commence from July 1st, and with private beds already being used to house overflow public patients, it is yet to be seen where the quality of care will continue from here. Helene Fong, WAMN News.
Following the McGowan government's landslide election victory, Greens member and former Fremantle Mayor Brad Pettitt has snatched an upper house seat in the South Metro region by a slim margin. His victory left him as the sole Greens survivor of McGowan's historic election landslide, and he pledges to work with all parties to hold the government to account. He also assures young voters that he will push for climate change policies.
Brad Pettitt has emerged as the only surviving Greens member after the 2021 state election. Despite hopes to have been in Parliament with colleagues, Mr Pettitt hopes to do what he can to improve democracy in WA. Collaboration with other micro-parties is Mr Pettitt's plan in his vow to hold the government to account in the face of an overwhelming Labor majority.
No one person can do this by themselves, so I'll be making sure that I'm collaborating where I can.
The new upper house member also hopes to give us a fairer democratic process after an election where some members were elected on 1% of the vote, while some candidates missed out with 6%.
Look, I think it's not an exaggeration to say it's broken because getting into the Parliament shouldn't feel like it's a lottery.
In addition to democracy, the former Fremantle mayor also hopes to focus on climate change and homelessness. He says that this government has a fantastic opportunity to make great changes quickly. Helene Fong, WAMN News.
A major cyclone is lashing WA's Midwest. Here's the latest update from the Department of Fire Emergency Services and the Bureau of Meteorology.
Tropical Cyclone Seroja is like nothing we have seen before in decades. People need to act to stay safe. There is currently a red alert from south of the Carnarvon town site to Lancelin. This includes the city of Greater Geraldton, the shires of Carnamah, Carew, Chapman Valley, Dandaragan, Irwin, Mingenew, Morawa, Northampton, Perenjori, Shark Bay and Three Springs in the Midwest and Gascoyne regions. This means you are in danger and you need to act immediately. DFES advises people in this area should stay inside and shelter in the strongest, safest part of your house or evacuation centre. Keep your emergency kit with you. Stay away from doors and windows and keep them closed. Stay indoors until the all-clear is given by the authorities. There is also a yellow alert for Manila Roadhouse to Carnarvon, meaning there is a possible threat to lives and homes in that region. Whilst a large portion of our state is facing this emerging and very serious threat, DFES advises Coral Bay to north of Manila Roadhouse in the Midwest Gascoyne has now been given the all-clear. As Tropical Cyclone Seroja continues to bear down on many areas, DFES will continue to monitor the situation.
From the 19th of April 2021, travellers from New Zealand will be able to set foot in WA quarantine-free. In addition, venues in the state will begin increasing their capacity and our controlled border will relax. From the 10th of April, many venues including Optus Stadium and Perth Concert Hall resumed operating at full capacity, while others were able to increase to 75% capacity.
This is a big step forward in the removal of restrictions, and one that we can only take due to the hard work from Western Australians across the community, giving health experts the confidence to proceed.
In a press conference announcing these new measures, Premier Mark McGowan also explained that despite concerns of a 1 in 250,000 chance of blood clotting from the AstraZeneca's vaccine, the government says it's safe.
Frustrated locals have expressed their disappointment after attending the City of Coburn's council meeting. The group submitted several questions regarding a development application of a potentially hazardous crushing facility near homes. Residents also asked questions on the contamination management of harmful substances such as silica and asbestos.
The answer was, we don't have the answers. The answer was, all the documentation isn't available. We can't make an assessment because we're still waiting for information to come back to us, and yet the public submission period is closed. So if they don't have all the documentation, how are we supposed to have all the documentation?
The EPA recommended that crushing facilities be located no less than 1 kilometre from residential areas. However, the potential development site is just 500 metres from homes. In a statement, the City of Coburn's Acting Chief of Build and Natural Environment, Nick Jones, says the Council is currently assessing the application by Bankerfridge Landfill and Recycling. Once completed, a comprehensive draft report will be presented to Council. Once elected members have been briefed on the draft report, a final report will be published on the City's website.
Irish nationalist young people in Belfast have clashed with police, with some saying it means that Brexit is not over yet. The rioters threw fireworks, rocks, bricks and even bombs at police and were met with water cannons and riot gear. Pro-loyalist youth were also seen rioting, with groups reaching around 100 people. Irish Nationalist Party Sinn Féin has been trying to disperse the violence and calm tensions. President Joe Biden has announced his plan to strengthen gun laws in the US. The plan would crack down on so-called ghost guns, pistol accessories and red flags among gun owners. So-called ghost guns have been a concern of the government. Parts of the weapons are purchased individually and assembled by the owner, skirting the need to register such weapons in the US. These guns will be cracked down on, in addition to pistols with stabilising braces, which will now be classified as short-barrelled rifles. Weapon trafficking, community intervention and other programs will also be invested in.
The royal family is grieving after Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh and consort of Queen Elizabeth II passed away this week at the age of 99. Buckingham Palace has confirmed Prince Philip's passing with a statement, saying His Royal Highness passed away peacefully at Windsor Castle. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said Prince Philip has lived an extraordinary life, adding the Prince was highly respected and a much-loved public figure.
Prince Philip earned the affection of generations here in the United Kingdom, across the Commonwealth and around the world. He was the longest-serving consort in history, one of the last surviving people in this country to have served in the Second World War. We remember the Duke for all of this, and above all, for his steadfast support for Her Majesty the Queen. Not just as her consort, by her side every day of her reign, but as her husband, her strength and stay of more than 70 years. And it is to Her Majesty and her family that our nation's thoughts must turn today, because they have lost not just a much-loved and highly respected public figure, but a devoted husband and a proud and loving father, grandfather, and, in recent years, great-grandfather.
And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Sarah will be back with us next week. Until then, from Kit and myself, we wish you good health, good night, see you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.